Welcome to Women of Courage, where you will hear the stories of courageous women, women from all walks of life who have faced challenges along the path of their life journey, women who have tapped into their inner resources and found the courage to confront, to overcome, and to triumph. I'm Ann Miner, your host for the show, and my guests have all agreed to share their experiences so others may learn from them. It is my hope that these stories will inspire you, that knowing you are not alone in facing the bumpy road of life, you will be motivated to keep moving, that you will take action and courageously pursue your own dreams and passions, no matter what obstacles are presented along the way. Just as our women of courage have won over their challenges, you can too. Stay with us. We'll be back with today's Women of Courage in just a moment.
If I were brave.
I give you the living embodiment of brilliance, Leonardo da Vinci.
This is a dangerous game you're playing.
Oh, when's that ever stop, man?
These creatures will leave our world only when we force them to.
People will die tonight. Be back with my money.
Now!
That was exciting. You think we should bump fists?
Order through your remote on channel 335.
The opportunities they give you, I don't think you'll find anywhere in London, that's for sure. Everything from mobiles, calling hockey games, to reporting, interviewing people, editing, anything you can name. Working in the studio, using the camera there, doing audio, doing graphics. If I was talking to somebody and they were considering Rogers TV, I would tell them that you'll leave the station every day with a smile on your face.
With me today is Hattie Dunstan. I'm so looking forward to hearing your story, Hattie. Why don't you begin with the challenges that you were facing?
I was born with cystic fibrosis, and I was diagnosed at 6 months old, and I grew up just kind of like any other kid, except I had to take 3 masks a day, 3 nebulizers. I had to take a lot of pills, but I was always active. I played gymnastics, I played soccer, I did everything a normal kid would do, and slowly, cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease. Your lungs fill up with mucus, and it's the perfect ground for bacteria, which causes infections and multiple scarring and decreases your lung function. So after about 16 years, my lung function started to decrease, and I needed more IV antibiotic treatments. And by the time I was 22, I was listed for a double lung transplant that would eventually save my life.
So you had gone to university, and had you graduated at this point?
I had to stop. I was too sick to continue. I completed about 3 years of an undergrad, and I was just, I couldn't even take the bus home from school. I was too sick, and my immune system was very low, so all the people coughing in that crowded classroom, it just wasn't working anymore. And the stress, oh my gosh, the stress from school, I would land in the hospital just from the stress and IV antibiotics, and so I had to discontinue that.
And so then what happened? You were at home, and?
So the September before my transplant, I stayed at home. I kind of just piddle-paddled in little things. I tried to remain as healthy as I could. It slowly decreased. I was on oxygen. I had a big old oxygen container in my house and the long hose from room to room. And then that January, my doctor was like, if this round of IV antibiotics doesn't work, Hattie, we should consider a transplant. And at that point, my mom was just like, what, a transplant? And I was So it got me sort of thinking about a transplant, and then a few months later I was like, you know what, my quality of life, like my friends are all going out, they're moving to Toronto, or they're getting a job, they're getting, you know, some of them were engaged, and I was just like, I have no quality of life. I can't go out dancing with you guys. I can't. My favorite TV show right now is Glee, and I watch it every night, and that's about it. So my quality of life was just poor, and I had lung envy. So in May, I decided, yeah, I'd like to be able to breathe again. I'd like to be able to pick up my cat, put on my pants, you know, without getting out of breath. So that was kind of the final push that got me to be listed.
So you agreed to be listed?
Yes,
Okay.
I agreed to be listed. It's all voluntary because, you know, if you're not going to do a good job or take your medication afterwards, then they have the right to deny you a lung transplant. So I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to get listed. So.
Things we don't think about.
Right, yeah.
So you were then listed.
Yeah. I was listed in May, and you have to do a week-long tests of all these sorts of tests to make sure all your other organs are correct, working order, whether you have a good support system, that's vital. So yeah, I did a week of testing, and I waited 5 weeks in the hospital because I was just too weak to do any of my own therapy, any of my own medications. I waited 5 weeks in the hospital, and the last week, the doctors were like, you are fading fast. My lung function kept creeping down and down. I think I was at 20% when I first went in, and when I was transplanted, I was at 12% lung function.
I can't imagine what that was like.
It was the worst thing I've ever had to do. It was really scary. I remember saying to my mom, I know why people give up and don't get transplants. Like it was just so hard to be able to cough out the mucus, and you know, they say keep up your strength, so go for walks and to cart the oxygen, and your muscles become so weak and you're so breathless doing anything. It was really hard, and I remember thinking to my mom, I don't know whether I'm going to make it to this weekend, and thankfully I got the call within a couple of days, but it was really, really scary for a while. My mom would sleep at the foot of my bed in the hospital room, and yeah.
I can imagine. And then
I got the call, and a nurse came into my room at like 2 in the morning, and she's like, Hattie, your lungs are here. And I was like, no, they're not. Because it felt like I was waiting so long. I know some people wait a lot longer, but when you're deteriorating so fast, it's quite a long wait. And so they took me in an ambulance over to Toronto General Hospital and prepped me, and I waved goodbye and told my family I loved them, and they wheeled me into the OR and met my anesthesiologist and surgeon, and they took my earrings off. I never got those back, but
you never got them back.
No, I got my glasses back. But yeah, so and then I woke up.
How long was that surgery?
My surgery was about 12 hours, 6 hours for each lung, replacing each lung, and the recovery is kind of the surgery usually goes pretty smoothly. It's just the recovery that's a real struggle. Yeah.
And how long was that period? You were in the hospital in Toronto for quite a while. Weren't you?
Yes, I was in Toronto General for 6 weeks after my surgery, in and out of ICU for 3 weeks. I had a lot of complications and setbacks. I was re-intubated and extubated, and it was a mess the first 3 weeks. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and I didn't know whether I was going to make it for some of it. Yeah. And so I was in for 6 weeks total, and then I was able to go home, but we still had to be super close to the hospital because I still had, you know, every other day I had to go for physical therapy to regain you just lose, I lost about 90% of my muscle mass, and, you know, to strengthen your lungs and your legs and everything. So I had to go for physical therapy every 3 days. You have to go for a doctor's appointment every day, or every week, and then blood work every week just to make sure all the levels are correct. So we had to rent a condo close to Toronto for the remainder, probably a good 6 months to a year after my initial transplant.
Wow, that was a long time.
Yeah, I didn't know whether it was worth it at first, but after 8 months I was like, oh, I've got my strength back, I can breathe, it's beautiful, the sun is shining, it's May 24th, like, okay, it was worth it, and I would do it again. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we're going to go to a break here just in a moment, and when we come back, I want to hear about what comes next.
If I were brave, what would I do today? If I were brave, what would I do?
The Woodstock Armories was built in 1904 to house the Oxford Rifles, the local militia military organization. The first local militia was formed in 1798 in Burford. They became known as the Oxford Rifles in 1814 after actively serving in the War of 1812. The organization grew until the Oxford Rifles were disbanded in 1954. Architects Nagel and Mills of Ingersoll designed the armories to have the appearance of a heavy fortress. It was 2 crenellated towers, though the building was never intended to be a defensive structure. Rather, it housed a gym, as well as a bowling alley in the basement for supplementary activities for Oxford Rifles members. The first floor served as an indoor parade and drill square, which could be observed from a stand-up balcony on the second level. The outdoor parade grounds were located directly south of the building, where the parking lot is today. The armories played a large role in the development of training and sports and recreation in Woodstock. To find out more, contact the Woodstock Museum at www.woodstockmuseum.ca.
What step would I take today if I were brave?
Welcome back as we continue our conversation with Hattie Dunstan. Hattie, thanks so much for sharing that journey. As you were going through your lung transplant recovery period, who inspired you and kept you going?
I, from the beginning, had an amazing support system. I have friends who started a fashion show fundraiser in honor of me for organ donation and cystic fibrosis. They've been amazing, but my parents were my rock. You know, my dad and my mom would come to the hospital every day, and my dad would massage my feet, and my mom would read, because I couldn't read anything, and she would read to me, and she came to every single appointment. And when I'd say, Mom, I don't think I'm gonna make it, and she'd be like, yes you are, Hattie. And you know, she really believed in me and kept me going.
I'm sure she's very proud of you too.
Yeah.
And so I want you to tell me now about your business, because out of all of that, you've started a business.
Yeah, I had originally started just as a hobby making jewelry, and after my transplant, I needed to work from home. Because I'm on immunosuppressed drugs to stop rejection, I needed to work from home, and the work environment's very, there's lots of illnesses out there. And so I thought, well, what better way to be able to take care of myself, cook what I need and work out when I need and work from home. So I started a jewelry business, taking vintage brooches and scarf pins, clip-on earrings, and turning them into pendants. And just this year, recently, I have expanded into the bridal market. So I've done a lot of bridal parties, and it's been really helpful with the online shopping. It's getting a lot bigger, so I can work from home and ship worldwide, and yeah.
Wow, and you incorporated your name into the business name.
Yeah, my dad came up with that. I forget how he came up with it, but so I'm Hattie, and my business is called Hattie Jewelry. Yeah.
Which is so perfect.
Yeah.
So you're selling your jewelry online, and did I also read that you were doing a home party type business?
Yep, so I come to people's houses and just set up, and the nice thing about my jewelry trunk shows or home parties is, instead of having to order from a catalog, a lot of those parties, you get to actually take my items away because they're all one of a kind. So, yeah.
And so where do you get your raw materials?
That's the best part of the job. I get to go to all sorts of vintage stores, estate sales, flea markets. I get a lot of donations, people not knowing what to do with their old 80s earrings and that they don't want to wear anymore, or their grandmother's brooches, they don't wear brooches anymore maybe, or so I get a lot of donations as well.
Wow. And so how long has that been that you've been in business for yourself?
I'd say I've really ramped it up this past year. It took me about a year. So I've had my transplant for 2.5 years, and it took me a good year to fully recover and kind of get into swing of things. And then this past year, I'm like, okay, I need to start, you know, making a little money for myself and get something to do.
Yes.
So, and I love fashion, and I have a fashion style blog, and so it just kind of all fit.
And were you part of that fashion fundraiser as well?
Yes, I had initially started it, but then got too sick, so about 13 of my girlfriends stepped up and ran the whole thing, and there was 500 people and 8 fashion houses, and it was quite a success, and we're into our 3rd year now.
So you did continue it?
Yes.
So when is the next one?
September 19th. Yeah.
And where?
It's where we're all from originally, in Caledon.
Okay.
It's just northwest of Toronto, about an hour. So it's like 2 hours away from London. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So what message would you share with our viewers?
Well, my boyfriend just recently told me a quote that Bob Dylan said, there's always someone else fighting people are always fighting a losing battle. And so I just, you know, what got me through something was there's always someone else worse off than you, or, you know, in the same boat as you. And, you know, it's your state of mind and how you approach things that really gets you through things. And there's always someone else fighting just as hard a battle as you, and everyone has their own worries. So just, at least I can breathe now, and if you can breathe, you're doing pretty good.
Yes, it's one of my favorite things to tell people to do when they're under stress, is to say, just breathe, keep breathing.
Yeah.
That came from a childhood experience where one of my little cousins had fallen off the dock at the lake, and after fishing him out, we were all saying to him, Charlie, we didn't even have to give him CPR. We just keep breathing, Charlie, breathe. Now, what about from your business experience? What advice would you give someone else who's starting up, another entrepreneur like yourself?
Look at all the grants out there. I got started through a summer company grant through the government, and it really allowed me as a young entrepreneur to start my business. There's a lot of great grants if you just research, and bursaries out there if you just research them. A lot of the small business enterprises in the different counties are really helpful for starting up your own business too. And probably people don't realize how much work it is. It's like a full-time job. It's 24 hours. It's more than a full-time job. It's after hours. It's when I'm eating dinner, I'm like, oh, there's an idea for a thing, and I'll run into the studio and do something. Or, you know, with social media, you're always updating your Facebook page or your blog, and it's a lot more work than you think, but it's the best job ever. You get to work for yourself, and it's amazing. So just keep at it.
And do you have an inspiration or a guide or a mentor that you've been working with?
Oh, I've had a lot over the years. I've worked with the Toronto Fashion Incubator, a lot of jewelry designers. I'm on the Etsy marketplace, and there's a lot of teams through that, and a lot of jewelry designers who are been doing it for years, and it's a great community on Etsy, and yeah, there's a lot.
So what's next for you?
I hope to just keep expanding the bridal business that's just been started over the last few months, and I hope to do that, and maybe down the line start a store. I'd hope to do a store with clothes in it as well as vintage items and my jewelry. That's the end goal. A store would be nice.
Do you have a timeline for that?
Maybe once I get fully settled in where exactly I'm going to live, maybe next 5 years. Yeah, we'll see.
Great. And if you were to leave a piece of entrepreneurial wisdom, besides looking for grants and bursaries and things you've mentioned before, what would be your one-liner?
Don't give up. Even though people tell you, oh, Hattie, just go work for someone else or just get a part-time job here. Just don't give up. It's so much more rewarding working for yourself.
Oh, that's a great piece of advice. Thank you so much for being with us today. We are going to go to one wacky, wild, wonderful woman, Jezebel Peppa, here for a moment, and she's going to give us her words of wisdom.
Hello, darlings. Jezebel Peppa here. I want to talk to you about family holidays. Now, not the kind of holiday where Uncle Fred comes over, drinks a few too many eggnogs, and passes out with his face in his mashed potatoes. I'm talking about vacation time. At least once a year, you need to take time away from your regular routine and go on a family vacation. There's lots to do. Go camping. Go and visit a relative you haven't seen in a long time. Take a look at the area where you live. Go explore Canada. It will create memories that will last a lifetime, I promise. So go and celebrate your leisure time, and remember, celebrate the Jezebel in you.
Hi, I'm Marco Matern, host of Oxford County Living. Each week we bring you news you can use from here in Oxford.
And this is the kind of weather when everybody's hiding inside, you guys got to get out there and work, right?
How about we talk about something that I've never done, and that's cruises. Are they still popular?
Cruises are very popular.
You can nominate anybody, an athlete or a team at any time of the year, and the ceremony takes place at the end of October.
Saturdays at 1:30, only on Rogers TV.
If you drive, then you know how frustrating filling up can be. Those sudden price jumps always seem to catch us off guard. So if you're looking to save, is a hybrid the answer? While the concept is appealing, the prices aren't. At $40,000 a pop, they're expensive, although government rebates can soften the blow. Still, a regular, fuel-efficient compact car costs about a third of that. Hybrids can save you on gas, but it'll take you time before you start to see those savings. Given the initial cost of a hybrid, you'd have to spend $4,000 a year in fuel on a regular car before you start to save. That's enough to power a car 55,000 clicks, 20,000 more than the average driver in a year. So if driving an environmentally friendly car is important to you, then go ahead. But if it's savings you're after, then a smaller car is probably the way to go.
If I were brave.
Every guest on Women of Courage takes home with her a beautiful bouquet of flowers, courtesy of Fernley Flowers, and an autographed copy of my book, Succeeding in Spite of Everything. Remember, in every setback lies opportunity. Opportunity for you to call up all that you have learned through personal experience and from others, to rely on your core beliefs and values, to find your way through to new opportunities, and succeed in spite of everything. Until next time, be courageous.
I could not fail. If I believed, would the wind always fill up my sail? How far would I go? What could I achieve? Trusting the hero in me. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread, and never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave. What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What if we're all meant to do what we secretly dream? What would you ask if you knew you could have anything? Like the mighty oak sleeps in the heart of a seed, are there miracles in you and me? If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread, and never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? If I refused to listen to the voice of fear, with the voice of courage whisper in my ear. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread, and never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave?
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line at 519-660-7548 or email us with your comments.
Are you ready to get your beard on? Catch CBC's coverage of the 2013 hockey playoffs from the first round right through the final, live on your Rogers smartphone. Download the Anyplace TV mobile app today and don't miss a second of the action.
Open-mindedness always opens up doors.
Best Buddies Canada brings the gift of friendship to people with intellectual disabilities. With 250 Best Buddies chapters in high schools and universities across Canada, students volunteer and learn about friendship and community service by being paired with a person with an intellectual disability.
There's so much more out there.
To support Best Buddies or learn more, visit Best Buddies.